Whether you're feeling creative, health conscious, or just kinda lazy, the air fryer is a mechanical miracle for home cooks. Still, just because they're easy to use doesn't mean you can't use them wrong. Not everything should be cooked in an air fryer. Take fish, for example. It probably seems reasonable to fry up a fillet in your air fryer. Truth is, though, it's incredibly easy to overcook fish if you're not monitoring it closely. Steaks and hamburgers can also be difficult to get right using an air fryer, so you're probably better off wrestling them up on the stove. Meanwhile, lightweight veggies, bread and croutons, and other foods containing loose, dried herbs and seasonings aren't going to work well, as they're likely to get blown around inside the fryer. The worst-case scenario here is that some of this debris could end up damaging your machine. Similarly, overly wet batters and sauce-heavy foods can splatter and burn when cooked in air fryers. When in doubt, do a little research first. You should always embrace the things that make cooking and cleaning up easier, and that includes using parchment paper in the kitchen. While you definitely can and should use this stuff in your air fryer, there are a few caveats that you ought to keep in mind. For example, parchment paper is designed to stand up to high temperatures, but if it blows around inside the air fryer during the preheating process, it could touch a heating element, and this is liable to burn it. Also, keep in mind that air fryers work by circulating air, which means that using sheets of standard parchment paper to cover the basket's surface interfere with the process. Sheets of parchment paper specifically meant for use in air fryers usually have holes in them. Try to use this kind if you can. If you're the kind of person who buys something new without doing much research, there's a good chance you've found that you don't use your air fryer that often. Most likely, this is because you bought one that doesn't have the features you really need. The most obvious example of this concerns the choice between a single or double basket air fryer. If you find that you use your oven rather than your fryer because you often make multiple dishes, then it stands to reason that you should have bought a model with multiple drawers. There are a whole bunch of different programs and settings to choose from too. Are you planning on baking, roasting, grilling, or dehydrating? Do you love rotisserie chickens? Some air fryers have a rotisserie setup, which could be a game changer if you're a fan of this meal. You might also need an air fryer that's dishwasher safe. Alternatively, if you're the impatient type, you may want to choose the kind that doesn't require preheating. On top of that, if you're running short on space in the kitchen, you'll want to consider an air fryer with a reheat function, as this means that it can basically double up as a microwave. Heck, you can even get one with a window if you want to see what's going on inside it. Simply put, when your air fryer is useful, you'll use it more. Setting up an air fryer is never as simple as just picking a spot on your kitchen counter and plugging it in. It's important to choose the right location for it, and failing to get this right could create a serious safety issue or lead to permanent damage to your kitchen. After all, air fryers heat up, and some parts, even on the outside, can become hot enough to burn. If you have your air fryer sitting against or close to a wall, or under a row of upper cabinets, it probably isn't getting the air it needs to work properly. If there's anything flammable nearby, such as curtains, there's also a very real fire risk. As well as this, air fryers release steam, and this can damage walls and cabinets over time. The back of the unit is typically the hottest part, but it's easy to overlook. Make sure you keep at least 5 inches of clearance between the appliance and any surfaces. You'll also need to make sure you have a heat-safe surface underneath the air fryer. If you're not sure, it's always better to be safe than sorry. You can buy heat-resistant countertop mats online for around $20, and you can't put a price on your well-being. If you've owned an air fryer before, or if you've used someone else's before deciding to take the plunge with one of your own, it might be tempting to skip over the instruction manual. And who could blame you? They're not exactly page-turners. That said, it could cause you real problems if you toss that manual in a drawer and forget about it, not least because all air fryers are made slightly differently. So sit down for a few minutes and give that manual a look over. Even if you've been using your air fryer for a while, you might discover new modes, timers, or preset programs. You could learn some tricks that will make cleaning the appliance easier, or you can get some model-specific tips, such as how to adjust the temperature of recipes and how much oil you should be using.
While you don't have to build up a whole new recipe repertoire, assuming you can use your air fryer for old recipes while keeping things like temperature and cooking time the same is a pretty big mistake, one that can ruin dinner for sure. There are countless recipes that can be adapted to an air fryer with just a few tweaks. For starters, Taste of Home says that a good rule of thumb is to remember to lower the cooking temperature by 25 degrees Fahrenheit. Then, check out the recommended cooking time. You're going to want to take somewhere around 20% off that, and there's a bit of a catch. When you're thinking of the time it takes to cook something in an air fryer, it's not always as clear-cut as you might be used to if you're cooking something on a stovetop. Different air fryers are going to have different cooking times, so depending on your model, your cooking time might be a little more or less. Taste of Home says that French fries, for example, can take anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. When you're getting used to a new air fryer or trying a new recipe, think of a cooking time as more of a guideline than something that's set in stone. And know that it's not going to take the same amount of time as other cooking methods. It's normal to assume that the temperature settings on our kitchen appliances are correct, but that's not always the case. According to Taste of Home, the actual temperature that an air fryer runs at might not be near what you think you're setting it at. They found that different models ran either hotter or cooler, and that can mean the difference between crispy, delicious fries and fries that are not so great. Fortunately, double-checking the temp of your air fryer is pretty easy to do and just requires the use of an oven thermometer. And don't worry, this isn't just a one-time purchase that's going to get thrown in a drawer. Over time, the dials on your appliances can loosen and become much less precise. We found that it's best to check the temperature of your oven at least once every 6 months or so in order to make sure you're actually cooking things at the temperature you think you are. Once you know, you can make any adjustments necessary. No one wants a side of food poisoning along with their meal, so here's the thing. Even though air fryers seem like a pretty foolproof way to cook, you should definitely be double-checking to make sure everything's reached the proper temperature before serving. Brain's report tested a variety of air fryers and found that they had one thing in common. They all took longer to get food properly cooked than most guidelines suggested. They recommended toasting a slice of bread as a test. Some air fryers could toast it in about 3 minutes, while others took up to 10. That's not a huge deal when you're talking about bread, but when you're talking about cooking chicken, it could mean the difference between enjoying a delicious meal and getting up close and personal with salmonella. So when it comes to meats, you're going to want to not just eyeball it, but use a good instant read thermometer to make sure your meal is cooked all the way through. Take poultry, for instance. According to the USDA, all poultry needs to be cooked to a minimum internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit. That's when it's safe, and when it comes to food safety, it's better to be 100% sure you're on temperature, especially when you're using a cooking method that varies so widely. It turns out it's sort of a misnomer to call an air fryer by its name because you do in fact need to use oil when you cook with it. In the air fryer, you really only need about 1 to 2 teaspoons for most items, or up to 1 to 2 tablespoons for breaded items that you want to get really crispy.
Basically, it takes less than a spoon of oil for this thing really to make it work.
That's because while the hot air racing through your machine will cook things, without oil they can come out dry, burned, and leathery. Using just a touch of oil will help your food crisp up. This is especially true with fried and breaded items that you're heating up or cooking in your fryer. The oil on the outside of the food will get heated by the air, helping to cook the breaded items to a crispy golden brown. If you're trying to avoid added fats in your diet, you can use a non-stick cooking spray or oil from a spray bottle to make sure you use just enough to coat your food. Just be sure to spritz your ingredients before you put them in your air fryer basket, which will help keep your machine clean. Now that you know you still need oil in your air fryer, it can be easy to go too far in the other direction. For a lot of us, the impulse is to keep using the same amounts of oil as we do in traditional cooking methods, so that we can ensure everything comes out of the air fryer crispy and delicious. But unlike with traditional frying, where you want your food to be submerged at least partially in oil, in the air fryer you really only need a little bit of oil, like 1 to 2 teaspoons for most foods. Using any more oil can lead to soggy, burned food and is also a fire hazard. There are some things that just have a permanent place in kitchens across the country, and Pam is one of those things.
America's favorite no-stick spray.
This non-stick cooking spray can be a lifesaver, and it's easy to see how you might be tempted to pull out that aerosol can and see if it'll make cleaning up your air fryer a little easier. But don't do that. Air Cookers notes that most air fryers already have non-stick coatings, and these coatings can actually be damaged by the additives in some aerosol sprays. Some propellants currently in use will cause non-stick coatings to flake, and if you've noticed this happening with your pans, it's entirely possible your pan habit is to blame. Fortunately, there's a quick fix. Pick up a non-aerosol pump sprayer or mister bottle and use it to add a mist of your favorite oil to not just your air fryer basket, but countless other cooking projects. It's tempting to just use your air fryer time and time again without cleaning it in between cooking sessions, especially since, unlike traditional frying, you're not left with a sloppy pan of oil to clean up. But that would be a mistake. A number of problems can arise if you don't clean your air fryer often enough. Crumbs and food particles left behind in the basket can burn the next time you use your fryer. Additionally, leftover oil residue in the drawer can smoke, imparting your food with off flavors and posing a fire hazard. The air fryer can also start to stink, making your kitchen smell foul. Instead of putting it off until next time, you should hand wash the air fryer basket, bottom tray, and drawer with warm water and dish soap after every session. All of the pieces should remove easily from your machine. Your machine will stay running smoothly so you can keep cooking your favorite foods. There's no such thing as a miracle product, so there are some things you need to do to make sure your air fryer works like a charm. You can't just throw your food in and then set the temperature. As with most other cooking methods, you need to preheat the air fryer before you use it. If you put a potato wedge in a cold pan of oil, it'll be a greasy beige mess when it's cooked through. The same is true of food made in the air fryer. You should preheat your air fryer for 10 minutes before you start cooking. Use that time to chop veggies and bread meats or to catch a few more minutes of your favorite Netflix show. Preheating the air fryer will ensure that the ingredients in your basket start cooking immediately, crisping up on the outside instead of slowly steaming into a soggy mess. By the time your food is properly crisped outside, it will be steamy and tender inside, thanks to that quick preheat. Fried foods are nothing without seasoning, so you'll likely want to add a hefty pinch or sprinkle of your favorite spices to anything you make in the air fryer. However, you need to be careful. The air fryer works through convection, aggressively pushing hot air around your food to cook it.
I simply let the hot air do the work for me.
This means any seasoning that isn't fully adhered to your ingredients can end up getting caught up by the rush of air, leaving you with unseasoned food and a filthy air fryer.
It's a whirlwind of superheated air.
The same goes for crispy coatings and other light ingredients. To ensure that you don't wind up with a flying salt and pepper disaster, be mindful about when you season. For instance, spray veggies with oil before adding seasoning so it has something to stick to. Or season the flour, beaten egg, and crispy coating directly when making chicken tenders and the like, instead of sprinkling them with seasoning after breading. Maybe your favorite churro recipe uses a batter, or you're used to dunking hot dogs into a thick cornmeal sludge before making your famous corn dogs. Well, if you want to keep using loose batters to bread your foods, you'll need to stick to traditional pan and deep frying. If you try to put ingredients covered in a wet batter in your air fryer, the batter will sink through the basket and wind up burning in the drawer below. Instead, make crispy fried foods by using dry breadings or doughs. Many swear that a classic 3-part breading process works best in the air fryer. First, coat your ingredient in seasoned flour, then dip it in beaten egg, and finally coat it in breadcrumbs. Spritz each piece lightly with oil and cook in your air fryer until done. Your result? Golden brown, crispy air-fried foods that have less fat than their traditionally made counterparts, but just as much flavor. If you got your air fryer because you're trying to eat healthier foods like unprocessed fresh veggies, you might be surprised to hear this next fact. You're better off using frozen vegetables in your air fryer, not fresh. Unfortunately, raw veggies tend to scorch in the air fryer before the insides can be cooked all the way through. Frozen vegetables, on the other hand, have more moisture. This allows them to cook fully before starting to brown, so you don't wind up with a charred exterior and frozen interior. Luckily, most frozen veggies are frozen at the peak of freshness, so you still get the same robust flavor you'd expect when cooking a raw vegetable, sometimes even better. How many times have you microwaved or baked your leftover pizza, orange chicken, or french fries only to be greeted with a plate of food that's soggy when it should be crispy, burnt and hard when it should be soft, and leathery and tough when it should be tender? All of those leftovers end up going to waste. The air fryer is a champ when it comes to reheating your favorite leftovers. Pizza stays crispy on the bottom while melting the cheese on top. Tater tots and fries are re-crisped to perfection. Pretty much any solid food is better reheated in the air fryer than anywhere else. With a name like air fryer, it's understandable that some people think you can only make fried foods in one of these devices. Luckily for the more adventurous foodies among us, this isn't the case. While frozen and leftover fried foods both taste delicious when you make them in your air fryer, it's even better for making crispy breaded foods from scratch. You'll be able to customize the recipe to your liking, meaning you can skip the additives, preservatives, and high sodium found in most frozen foods, so that you wind up with much crispier food than if you baked in the oven. Better yet, your foods will still be lower in fat than if you fried them in the traditional manner. Try breading chicken or pork chops, or making a fresh batch of chicken parmesan in your air fryer to save time. One of the reasons why air fryers are such a great tool in the kitchen is that they're versatile. It turns out you can even make your favorite baked goods in one. Why make baked goods in the air fryer? It doesn't use up as much energy as heating up your entire oven, and in the warmer months, it's one way to make sure that you aren't turning your house into an oven just because you were craving chocolate cake. The other reason? It's easy to convert conventional oven recipes into air fryer recipes when it comes to baked goods. Set your air fryer to the same temperature as the original recipe calls for and cook your items for the same amount of time. The one thing you will need to be conscious of is the size of your air fryer. Some have round baskets, others have square baskets, so you need to be mindful of which inserts you can use inside your fryer. Remember too that ramekins and silicone molds can also be used in your air fryer to make individual-sized desserts that will cook up quickly. And on that note, you do always need to use some sort of pan or insert when baking in the air fryer. If not, batter and dough will seep through the holes at the bottom of your air fryer basket, burning and creating a potential fire hazard. Most air fryers come with a basic basket, and that's all you'll need to make classic favorites like French fries, frozen fried foods, and many reheated leftovers. But if you really want to get your money's worth out of the air fryer, investing in some accessories will help. As we've already noted, your air fryer should always be set on a heat-proof surface. There are accessories that go inside the air fryer that can make it more useful too. Look for cake pans, silicone molds, ramekins, racks, and other cooking devices that can fit inside your air fryer basket. These will help you make a much wider variety of foods in your air fryer without having to worry about spillage, overflow, or burning, so you can get as much use out of your new device as possible. Also, be on the lookout for things that make cleaning up your air fryer easier. This includes oil sprayers, which will help prevent stuck-on food, and parchment paper lines, which keep the bottom of your fryer clean. It doesn't matter how much you like to cook, there's one universal truth that goes along with that. No one likes to be the one to clean up. And sure, air fryers might be convenient, but they can be a hassle to clean. As easy as it might be to take a shortcut at the end, you shouldn't. Getting the basket and drawer of an air fryer clean is a pain, and getting them dry is even more of a pain, if that is, you're using a towel. There's no need. In order to get your air fryer completely dry and avoid that almost inevitable, slightly funky smell you'll notice if you leave something that's sealed sitting on your countertop for a bit, Blue Jean Chef says there's an easy fix. After giving it a thorough scrub, replace the basket and the dryer and turn your air fryer on for just a few minutes. All that extra moisture, gone. If you've tried every trick in the book, taken every bit of advice you've been given, and are still having trouble getting your air fryer meals to come out as good as everyone else swears theirs do, here's some good news. It might not be anything you're doing at all. Which is a consumer watchdog and advocate group in the UK, and they looked at air fryers to see how price impacted quality. They found that in many cases, price did make a difference. While there were some cheap air fryers out there that got the job done when it came to something like a single serving of fries, spending a little more money made a huge difference when it came to things like capacity, the versatility of being able to cook more than one thing at a time, and smart controls. If you buy a cheap air fryer, you might find yourself dealing with a model that doesn't even have a power cord long enough to safely position it in your kitchen. BBC Good Food found similar things. When they tested a series of air fryers, they found one decent budget model, while all their other recommendations were between $207 and $345. The bottom line seems to be that if you went on the cheap side for your air fryer, there's a good chance it might not put out a satisfactory meal even if you do everything right. An upgrade might be in order.